Hi, I'm Corey Driver, and this is Moving Forward. So this week we are in Acts 8, Psalm 118, Colossians 3, and Matthew 28, and we're talking about stuff that you already know. What's worse than you tell a joke or a funny story and somebody beats you to the punchline? Or, in my line of work, what's worse than if you spend like months or maybe even years on a research project and somebody beats you to it? You don't know, like I can never know, who's studying what out there, who's writing on what, or like my creatives, if you're writing a story or making a piece of art and somebody comes out like with something kind of similar just before you, oh, it's terrible. There's no point in like seeing something that people have already seen or reading something that people have already read. Is there? The lectionary readings for this Resurrection Day insist that there is a great deal of value in reading stuff that's already been read. And in fact, reviewing things that you already know. Each of the lectionary readings are telling us something that we already know. Way back in Psalm 118, the composer wanted everyone who sang this song to know that God was a God of triumph of life over death. The psalmist insists a couple times that God has become his salvation and will not turn the psalmist over to death. Instead, God insists that life, not death, will have the final word. And God will use specifically chosen agents to bring this life. The stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. And isn't that the way God has always worked? Joseph, David, Miriam, Jacob, these were all surprising choices, and many others besides, to lead God's people. This psalm is in the great songbook of Israel, sung year after year, in the mouths, hearts, and minds of the people. And it suggests that the people had known for centuries before the incarnation that God has become salvation and will triumph over death using a somewhat surprising leader. Even if applying these verses to Jesus wasn't the first thought of folks in the first century CE, folks already knew, kinda, what God was up to. And then we, in the resurrection account, have another account of people already knowing things. The angel causes a massive earthquake and leaves the guards struck silent as they watch whatever will happen next. And the angel, at least in Matthew's account, has no time for a back and forth with the two Marys who come to the tomb. The angel says, in effect, I already know what you're here for. I already know that you're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He's not here. He rose just as he already told you he was going to. Come and see and go quickly and tell the others to meet him in Galilee. Look, I have already told you. Or look, I just told you. This angel anticipates all the questions, all the desires for proof, and sends the two Marys on their way without them even getting a chance to speak a word. Basically, the angel said, look, I already know what you're thinking. Jesus already told you what was going to happen. Get going. Eventually, Peter has heard the good news and verified it for himself. And then he helps spread that good news to the world. And every time I read it, I'm struck in Acts 10 by Peter insisting that the Gentiles in Acts 10 already know everything they need to know. They knew that God anointed Jesus to do good works with power and to release the oppressed. They all knew that Jesus was crucified on a tree and that he was raised to life on the third day. Jesus didn't appear to everyone after his resurrection, but only those with whom he had previously eaten. But his life, ministry, death, and resurrection were never meant to be a mystery or some hidden thing, because the prophets all testified to him. There's no gnosis or secret knowledge here. There never was, Peter and Jesus testify. People have already been told for centuries what was going to happen. Peter was just interpreting to them what they already heard and knew. So then, what is the point? What does all this mean? Why remind people of what they already know? So that people will act accordingly. The author of Colossians makes a simple argument based on what people already know and believe. If you have been raised with Christ, you have, haven't you? Set your mind on things above, where Jesus sits at the right hand of God. In light of Jesus' death and glorious resurrection, why mess around with the silliness of lust, desire, and greed? If we are freed from death, and we have been, and you already know that, why mess around with things that only provide entertainment and diversions to the life that we have already died to and been raised from? Resurrection Sunday is a gift because it pulls back the curtain and proclaims, you don't have to be afraid or pretend anymore. You already know the rest of the story. God raised Jesus up from the dead. Jesus conquers sin and death so that we don't have to mess around with sin and death anymore. That's over. We get to live and love like it's our job. Because it is. The resurrected Jesus says it's our job. And really, we already know. Thanks be to God. Amen.